Gather round, friends, new and old, and welcome to the Powwow Podcast. I am your host, David, and there is
Philip.
And we're in a good mood today. For some reason, I don't know. There's nothing special about today other than the fiasco that we've just gone through. Because here it is, the big reveal. I am going away this week. And so we are recording this episode the day after we recorded the last episode. So you're hearing this almost 2 weeks in the future. So I'm going to Spain. And just like when Philip went on his vacation, we are...
You didn't ask?
And he didn't ask. I gave Philip about like 3 weeks notice, okay? So we're recording a little half-sized episode on top of the one that we just recorded so that you guys don't have to miss out on Powwow. It will be a little bit shorter, but no less fun, we like to think. And yeah, so I'm going to Spain. I'm going to the southeast of Spain in Murcia, or as the Spanish would say, Murcia. And I'm going to go just lie on the beach and enjoy food and wine and just warm weather because we haven't had any here in the Netherlands. And I'm stoked. I'm absolutely stoked.
You know what I love about Spain? When I found out that it's a real thing, not just an urban legend or something that you think that they do, but they don't, whenever you're talking about different nationalities. I love that the Spanish have a built-in nap time. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
that is amazing.
It's not something I generally take advantage of, but I'm not a napper unless I'm super tired.
I enjoy a good nap.
I know you do. I do. So anyway, given that we already talked about vacations and what we like to do on vacations, and maybe we'll revisit that subject in the future, it wasn't that long ago at the moment. So what we're going to talk about now is air travel and all the fun things that come with air travel and our go-tos, I suppose I would say.
And I'd have to assume now, by this point now, David, you're on par with my level, probably not up to the amount of times, but you certainly had your fair share of air travel. Well, no, maybe not. Maybe you are actually ahead of me now that I think about it.
What are you talking about?
Fair share of air travel. Like, how many times have you been on a plane by this point in your life? Has it been like
hundreds,
countless? Wow,
a lot, man. You forget I moved around a lot, but at certain points we were living in Kenya with family, my mom's family in Zambia, my dad's family in South Africa and the US. We had family in Germany as well. I've been flying. I think there was 1 year I counted. I boarded a plane 20 something times in one calendar year at one point. That was
okay.
Yeah, and there was points like when I was at university in the UK and my family were still in the Netherlands, I would fly back because it's a really short flight. And, if I picked the right weekend, it wouldn't be too expensive. I could fly back for a long weekend at times. Like I'd have to go to my lecture on Friday morning. And then if I happened to have Friday afternoon all clear, then I could get straight in the train, head to the airport, fly to the Netherlands, and then come back on Sunday night or maybe Monday morning, depending on what my schedule was like. I would fly back a lot. In fact, it came to the point I would always book through the Dutch airline KLM, and because I flew back and forth so much, I actually got to silver status with KLM, which comes with all sorts of perks. And I actually managed to maintain that status for several years. It's gone now, unfortunately. And so I would get access to some certain lounges and
like a second bag of peanuts on the plane.
Something like that.
maybe a shrimp cocktail as you traverse internationally.
Well, when I would fly, the funny thing is because KLM and Delta are partners, when I would fly Delta, it would put me ahead of a lot of people when it comes to requesting, because Delta do a cool thing where they, even if you haven't paid for an upgrade, if they have empty seats in first class or economy plus or whatever, they always fill those seats. So they give people free upgrades if they have the space. And so I would get pushed slightly above anyone who wasn't silver was put below me in that list. So I would every now and then get upgraded to economy plus or whatever. Or sometimes I was lucky into first class, which was just amazing. That was always fun because then you get free alcohol because Delta likes to charge you for alcohol if you're not in first class.
At first, I was hoping that even though I knew that there was no possible way with your international travel that I could possibly defeat you on a miles to miles battle. But I was thinking and possibly hoping that I could take you on with the frequency because I have had a fair amount of air travel
I'm
myself, just
sure,
boarding planes.
certainly in the last maybe year, I haven't done anything, man. I haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah, and I've taken a couple trips here and there, so there's that. But I throughout all my travels, the one thing you certainly have on me, I've never actually been on first class.
I mean, it's fun, man, especially in the long distance flights because,
Oh yeah, I've heard that once you go first class, especially for those
uh,
longer flights,
uh,
you never go. You like never want to go back. You
yeah,
never can even imagine
when
living another life back there.
when I left the US, I had to book flights, and because it was pandemic time, the airlines were offering
Ooh,
weird pricing all over the place, and I had so many miles racked up, and I had never really spent them. I'd spent a few here and a few there for certain things, but never actually spent them on a flight. So I had a lot of miles racked up from all that travel back and forth between Amsterdam and London, and I could have paid with cash, which would have cost me whatever, but I decided to pay with miles, and then you have to pay like a little bit of cash on top.
mm,
And so I discovered that the price difference between at that time, because of the pandemic, the price difference between in miles between first class and economy was like almost nothing really, because you have to pay like a little bit of a dollar amount because of the tax or whatever. The dollar amount
sure.
it was like 250 versus 100 or something. So it was like $150 extra, but for a long distance flight, it seemed
Oh
way
yeah,
worth it. And the miles difference was, I mean, it was I can't remember what the miles difference was, but that also felt inconsequential. So I booked first class, and it was really nice, especially since pandemic. I had to wear a mask the whole time. It was nice to be comfortable in other ways in this nice lush
yes.
reclining seat. Oh, first
Of
class
course,
meal.
it sounds exquisite,
Yeah.
exquisite. I look forward to next time I visit you, to being in first class on my voyage over to you.
Oh yes.
Let's get to what we actually planned on. Even though I love this conversation thus far, how do you, Hoffman, prepare for the airport for a trip to go on an airplane? What is your method?
Oh, I'm a big last minute packer.
Really?
Yes, oh absolutely. I leave
Wow!
in less than 2 days. I haven't even thought about what I'm going to pack. So I'll do some of that tomorrow
Wow!
night, but I'll probably do most of it during the day on Wednesday before I leave on Wednesday evening. Yeah, I am.
Oh wow! Oh, sorry, my alarm's calling me to call you on your bull.
No, I'm being serious. What about you? What are you
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a last minute person. I'd say I'm the night before. Cut the difference. I
Yeah,
like
well, I mean
I.
that's what I mean. It's usually the night before, but most flights that I take are either in the morning or the early afternoon. Maybe like
Mm,
evening flights are feel like a rarity. I think, but I mean I'm a
mhm.
last minute packer. I generally get to the airport in good time, and I'm always prepared with my documents and stuff like that. I've always checked in online ahead of time, so there's that. But
So you and me, weirdly enough, actually have driven each other to the airport in our
yes,
time
yes, we have.
physically together. Yes. So I somewhat know the answer to this, but what is your preferred time now to get to an airport pre-boarding? What would your recommendation be to the general public to be like, you know what, just be safe and get here at this point before your flight?
I think when you're as experienced a traveler as I am, you get to know certain airports, and if I know the airport, then that'll affect how early I show up. For example, when it comes to Amsterdam, I'm usually pretty comfortable. I'm good with like no more than 2 hours before my flight, even if it's an international flight, unless it's the U.S. If I'm flying to the U.S., that changes the game, man, because there's so much bureaucracy. Oh my goodness. But especially like within Europe, easy, no stress. I don't need to show up that early. An hour and a half even is usually more than enough time. And you get to know that like even if you're running a little late, if you say at security, it's like, hey, my flight leaves in so and so minutes. I need to get to the front of the queue. They generally are like, okay, come to the front of the queue because they know that you have to get onto that plane, man. So yeah, I'm a good traveler. I know my way around.
I'm a standard 2 hours beforehand. That's when I arrive at the airport. That's I have things that I can do, and certainly I'm a preparer.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean
have
that's
an extra.
generally
I
what
have
I would aim for. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, 2 hours beforehand. So with that, especially nowadays, when I was younger, I mean, you had to bring a CD player and a CD to keep you entertained. But nowadays, you just make sure the night before that either you download like a full season of whatever TV show you're interested in, and maybe two movies, and you're set for like the day. You're set. You should not be able to finish whatever it is that you download from Netflix, whatever you download from Hulu, like whatever your account is. Maybe if you don't have subscriptions, go out on Apple and buy a movie so that way you just have something to watch. But you really should. The name of the game is find things for you to do, or ironically, this last time I was on a plane for the wedding, I actually edited the podcast in the air. We were a mobile podcast this past a
Wow.
couple episodes ago.
At the moment, the podcast in the last couple months, the podcast is better traveled than I am.
Yes, it is. It will be rectified shortly, but yes, it will
it
be.
will. It will.
All right, I've got some quick hitter questions. If you don't have anything
Oh,
else you want to add,
I got a question for you. We're going to take
Okay,
it in
go
turns
ahead.
here. Do you ever
Fantastic.
splash out on an extra expense while traveling? Do you ever purchase a seat with extra leg room, or do you purchase a meal on a flight that has no meal, or do you ever upgrade or something like that?
In flight, no. What I will do though, and I would suppose that it's far more expensive, I will eat at the airport. I try my best not to, but traveling, I don't know what it is about me. You know, like certain things have a nostalgia feel. Like you can't get away from how a place makes you feel. Like some people, no matter how much they love their dentist or whatever, if they get to go to a new dentist, going to the dentist has certain feelings of dread. Whenever you're going to a school, maybe that you visit, you'll have memories, and so you have happiness. For me, whenever I go and I just my body's in that mode of travel, I just get snacky. I get hungry. So even if I prepare for it, especially with all the security measures now prohibiting a lot of what you can provide for your own self in those situations, I just get snacky and I'll eat. I don't know, Shake Shack if I'm here and it's at the airport, or I'll go to Einstein's for the odd occasion to be like, you know what? I don't remember the last time I ever had an Einstein's bagel, but I happen to want one now because it's 3 a.m. and I'm in between flights. So I will purchase those, but actually on flight, I haven't done the distance as long as you. I've gone about 6 hours was probably my maximum flight distance.
Yeah, that's what LA to New York is a 6 hour flight. Yeah.
So 6, maybe 7. And within that span, I didn't need anything, and I don't drink anyway. So there's not a lot of full expenditures that I would need on a plane anyways.
Oh, I would forget expenditures. I would use that privilege of going into the Delta Lounge, and I would take advantage of their open bar and drink some red wine, and that would allow me to sleep very nicely when I got onto the plane.
That's what they have in those lounges.
Oh yeah,
I've seen those lounges. I've just never.
Yeah, the food is crap, but they have an open bar, and the beer that they have on offer is usually not very good, but they usually have an okay red and white wine. And
hey! My taste in food is crap. That could be worth it for me.
I mean, it's free.
Yeah, I know. I'm a sucker for like a corn snack dog, a corn hot dog. You know, I can do with a corn dog right before a flight. I'm not above that. Pretzel dog. Let's do it.
No, it's usually like a breakfast bar. It's like they've got like a buffet things like scrambled eggs and stuff like that, and like little finger sandwiches and stuff like that.
I like breakfast pretty much in any format except for mass-produced eggs, because they always have that like styrofoam quality. If it's an actual egg that doesn't come from like a carton,
eggs, though. I think they're actual eggs.
Okay, as long as it's some form of an actual egg that somebody had to break in order to go and not coming from a carton, unless it's that, then I'm out. Those generic eggs, I'm an egg snob. All right, so you're in your quick questions here, correct?
Oh no, you got one? I thought we were taking in turns.
No, I've got quick questions here.
Okay, go ahead.
Cool. So yeah, we'll take turns on these quick questions.
Okay.
How quickly do you get through security?
Oh, very quickly. I actually have a story about are these going to be quick questions or can I tell the story?
No. You go feel free.
Oh, so security is a thing. Like I'm the guy who's like already got his belt off, already got his shoes off when I'm like
Yes,
10 people
yes.
away
Thank
and I've got
you.
my lap.
Thank you.
Like I'm literally like my arms are full. Like I've unpacked because I travel with a lot of
Yes.
electronics. So I usually like I've had to unpack everything. I'm holding it in my arms and I'm like pulling my bag along like
Yeah.
and then once I get there, it all goes in the trays and I'm like I'm as quick as I could possibly be with as much stuff as I have.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's that. What I was so you asked me, I think it was before we got on here, what are international airports like? What was the question that you asked me?
Are the international airports, do they have as many security phases and
Right.
measures as American airports
Yeah.
do?
The answer is yes. So if you haven't traveled internationally, then you maybe don't know, but 9/11 had a huge effect on the US in terms of air travel. That carried through around the world. It changed everything. Global air travel was changed forever. And in fact, that applies to any kind of travel really. Like security in general, even security at schools, security at any
Yeah.
building that has a lot of people in it, generally things changed. But anyway, so security systems generally in international airports, especially major airports like Amsterdam, London, Dubai, those airports, their security is just as stringent, if not more, than I've experienced in the US and is generally quite a bit more advanced. So I'm sure the US is heading this way, but I remember there's this one time we had flown from Amsterdam. I had flown from Amsterdam to Boston on my own. And when we were boarding in Amsterdam, we all, you don't have to take your shoes off in Europe. That's the one thing because they can see what's in your shoes when you go through that like that detector thingy that swivels around you, the new sort of fancy detector thingy.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
if a metal detector, maybe I get it, but anyway, so you don't take your shoes off in Europe or anywhere else in the world. That's only a US thing. But we all, prepped like we normally do as we're going through the line to go through security. And I pulled my laptop out, and the guy there said, "No, no, no, you can leave your laptop in the bag. We don't need that anymore. We can scan it all in the machine." So I was impressed. I was like, "Oh, cool! Finally, things are moving forward. We don't need to take our laptops." As I always wondered, how much difference does it really make when you take your laptop out of the bag and put it put it into the
Yeah.
tray on its own? Because I don't even take it out of its little like sleeve case. It stays in there, it stays closed, whatever. Anyway, so that was awesome. We arrive in Boston and I'm getting on my connecting flight, or I'm going through security again to get on my connecting flight. And there's another guy there in front of me who also was on my Amsterdam flight. He's also getting on a connecting flight.
Yeah, you travel buddies.
And the woman says to him, "Oh, you have to take your laptop out, sir." And he goes, "Oh, sorry, I just didn't realize because in Amsterdam we didn't have to." And she goes, "Sir, you can't compare." I don't know. This was Boston, but she had this accent.
Yeah.
You can't compare internet. Sorry, she said overseas security with U.S. security. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be confrontational. But the Amsterdam is one of the most modern and advanced airports in the world. So you
Yeah.
can't compare Boston to Amsterdam. The security is very stringent, very advanced, and it is very efficient. So I'll say that about security.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more so. I'm lockstep and key with you. I have everything prepared for me. Nothing irks me more than getting stuck behind the wrong lane. Where you assess the lanes. Whenever you go through TSA and you have to give your driver's license and identification, you are then prompted with the theoretical and ethical debate that lies before you of which line do I now go to be scanned and put all my stuff in through the tubes. And so you make a quick assessment. It's the same. It's the same evaluation that you make whenever you're at the store. You're like, which line gives me the best chance to get out of here fastest? And nothing irks you, or irks me rather, more as a person than misidentifying and just finally getting it. Like, okay, I made my selection. I'm here. And then
Yeah.
you just find that the guy who you thought was going to be fast, all of a sudden
Yeah.
now had a pocket full of electronics that he didn't know. Sir, you're gonna have to go back through and put your things in a tub. He's like, oh, sorry. And then he goes to the end and he's like, sorry, I got to grab a tub. Sorry, could you pass me a tub? Could you pass me a tub? Oh, we're all out of tubs. Hey, we're out of tubs. Just like there's everything that in the world to stop this person. All right, your next question.
Are you a sleeper or a movie watcher?
On the plane, yeah. No, I would say I prefer to sleep. I prefer to sleep to make the time go by that much faster. Although I'm not opposed to either. Both work for me, but I prefer sleep. My one, actually, speaking of sleep, perfect cue here. Have you ever slept in an airport, with purpose, like for a
Yes.
couple of hours?
I believe I have. We've done with my family when I was growing up. We would do lots of long distance travel when we were living in Europe and going back to Zambia for Christmas and stuff like that to visit family. And yeah, we would do long trips. So for several years we were doing the route via Dubai. So we would go Amsterdam, Dubai, which is not very direct when you're traveling to Zambia, and then Dubai, Lusaka in Zambia. And there would generally be, I can't remember which direction it was, but I think it was on the way down. The wait in Dubai was several hours, and we would either stay up or we would just lie down somewhere where we could maybe like wipe down the chair and then take a nap. And we weren't the only ones, because Dubai is right in the center of the map. It's a huge hub. That's why it's become so huge, and Emirates has become so huge, is because it's right in the middle. So it connects Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, and whatnot, and it can even reach there easy. There's even direct flights from Dubai all the way to the western coast of the United States. There's a 16-hour flight from Dubai to LA. Insane. Anyway, so yeah, we
Wow.
would sleep. We would sleep in that airport from time to time. Yeah, not great. Not great. Don't recommend. I would rather, at this point, I would rather just be awake and be tired.
Absolutely. I got woken up by security once for falling asleep in an airport. I don't know how I managed to do it, because I was like the only person who did this, but I somehow found connecting flights. But the gap in between the flight, my first flight was a red eye. So I got into the airport around 2, 3, somewhere in there.
Mm.
But the thing was, is that the next flight wasn't until 6:30, somewhere in there. And so the airport is actually closed from that time. Like, I think they close around like 1:30. And so obviously if you're landing, that's fine. But whenever you're in the airport, you're kind of stuck within that
Yeah.
purgatory. And so I was stuck in the airport, and who knows where at that time, probably like Iowa, maybe Denver or something. I really don't remember. And so I'm stuck in there, and it's 3 a.m. I mean, I'm naturally already pretty much tired anyways. I went to go to sleep, got kicked in the shoe by security saying, "Hey, you can't fall asleep," or what are you waiting here for? Because I had to leave the
What are you
airport.
waiting here
And
for?
yeah,
Sir, I'm waiting for a plane.
waiting for a pizza. Yeah, no, I don't know what I'd be waiting here for. But anyways, your question.
Man, that is hilarious. Oh, by the way, in Dubai once, it's crazy. You know how you always hear those announcements, please don't leave your baggage unattended or it will be removed and maybe destroyed? Do you ever hear those
Yeah,
announcements? Yeah. I
yeah.
would see like piles of bags just left unattended in Dubai. And
Mm.
I saw that, and I went to the nearest security guard and I said, "Oh, by the way, there's a bunch of bags there that are unattended," which in an airport is suspicious. And the
Yeah.
guy was just like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." And I'm like, "What?" Anyway, all
But
right.
wait, by the way, I'm sorry, one last little thing. When you were traveling internationally to that place with the long 16-hour flight,
Oh, no. I never
layover and
did the
everything,
16-hour flight. That's just an example of one that exists.
right? But when you went on that vacation, did you guys rent your car or did Dubai?
Moving on. All right. Here's a one. Here's a one. In a large airport with time to kill, what's your go-to?
Go to's a movie. Go to's a movie. I always have at least 4 movies downloaded whenever I go. Netflix is my usual go to.
But
I'll the night
okay,
before.
what I meant more is like, do you go to the duty free store or the bar or the Shake
Oh,
Shack?
I right. I find my gate, and then if I'm not within that first row of onlookers, because again, I've never been on first class, never really been in first call, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Also, here, here we go. If you don't have an assigned seat, or excuse me, if you do have an assigned seat, you realize it doesn't matter for you to board any quicker than to be the last person
I
to be
will
on
counter
the plane.
that sometimes overhead luggage storage
Oh,
runs
I
out.
guess I don't. I always bring a backpack so it just stays between my
Right.
feet. So I guess that matters. I guess if you have a kid, then that does matter.
A kid
But for
or
my
a
purpose,
bag, like a pull along.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, an overhead, or if you're traveling without any luggage, and that's like your quote unquote luggage for the day, whatever.
Right,
I
exactly.
guess I can understand that. So, but I always am in that first row, or if I'm not, I'm just within viewing distance to see like when they're on their last call. So that way I can be the last person to board the plane. I'm standing. I can get those last few seconds of stretching my legs out before I'm sitting on a plane for a continuous onset of hours. Or do you prefer anything?
Oh, I do like to go to the bar. If I haven't got the rights to go to the lounge, then I will go to the bar probably. But I do like to peruse around duty free and see what that's like. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. But I will say this, it's funny, they always board the first class first and then the people who are in economy plus, but the funny thing is that it's way more efficient if you board the people in the back of the plane first. Cuz
You think so?
then no one has to walk past them to get to their seat, whereas everyone then has to walk past it would be way quicker if you boarded the back of the plane first.
This is an exquisite point, David. I applaud you, and this should have been like a, I don't even know if it should have been a bite me, but it should be just a suggestion.
You know what? I
should
might
have
write it down. It'll be a bite me in the future.
in the very far away in episode 135. So
yes, that way people forget. Or we'll have 1,000 new listeners by that point, and
absolutely,
yeah, and then they won't know.
1,000 more listeners, David,
right?
1,000.
That's
more.
what I said. 1,000 new listeners.
1,000 new? No. 1,000 more.
Oh,
1,000, like to add to our 1,000 that we already have. Yeah.
Okay.
How does going to the airport or being within the airport make you feel?
I feel I like to, I don't know. I think it gives me a feeling of importance. I feel like I'm on an adventure.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on an adventure, especially when I'm traveling alone. I just feel it gives me an energy. I just love it. I thrive off of it. I love to travel. I love to go places. I feel like I'm going on, like, again, just on an adventure. And yeah, I like the mystery. No one knows where I'm going or why. And I like people to think that I am important or on a, like, I just love the anonymity of it. I just love everything about it. And that gives me this this excited feeling. And that's why I love the lounge as well. Like, especially in LA, when I would walk into the Delta Lounge in LA, you're there with like the people around. Like, I saw George Takei in the Delta Lounge at LAX. That was freaking awesome. And like, there's other people, like, I've sat down at the bar and had conversations with people who, because it's LA, like, you never really know who people are, who they could be. And so I like that feeling. Like, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't lie to people, but I would just like enjoy the anonymity and the getting to know people who are also on an adventure. It's awesome.
David, there are many adjectives to describe me as a person, but you'll be hard pressed to find the person whose first couple of adjectives used for me would be suave or maybe even confident. But for some reason, man, I have some sort of sense of sense of bravado whenever I go to the airport. I don't know what it is, but I just feel so disgustingly confident whenever I go to the airport. I feel like I look good. I feel like I know what the hell I'm doing better than anybody else who's doing through the exact same thing. And I don't know what it is. Like, that's where I don't feel it in the club as I should. I don't feel it when going around. Whenever I'm like, just see somebody that's like, oh, hey, how you? No, I don't feel it then. But I feel whenever I'm at the airport. Could not tell you why. I don't have it nailed down to a scientific, probably Freudian reason on why that is. But I feel so good and like, I will double check myself in that bathroom mirror because I just feel so good at the
Nice,
airport.
nice. Yeah, you know what I've just realized when I get that feeling, especially when it was LA and I was in the Delta Lounge or whatever.
Mhm.
One of the things, like, there's like people who dress all nice when they travel, and people who are like look like businessmen when they travel, and maybe they take pride in that. What I like is going into a lounge, which already sort of has it implies that you maybe are a little bit more, I don't know, rich, or not necessarily rich, but doing something. You're an experienced traveler, maybe,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's it. You're an experienced traveler, you know what you're doing. And what I would do is generally I'd be wearing like a t-shirt, jeans, and a backwards cap. And that automatically makes people just assume, okay, this guy's been here before, and I just love that. I love that feeling, man. It's just the greatest. All right, my question for you: you have to let me finish. Are you a member of the Mile High Club? And when I say Mile High Club, I'm not talking about sex, although you could answer that as well if you wanted. I'm talking about number two. Have you ever gone number two, Mile High?
For your first innuendo, I suppose. No, I've never. That's to a point to where I'm afraid of being like arrested and stuff. So like,
Right.
no,
Or
no for
put
that.
on a no-fly list. Go. Oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's like probably on like the lower end of punishments. So no, but yeah, yeah. I've never actually been a person who ever has had an uncomfortability to go wherever. In fact,
Wow.
I'm probably like the opposite. Like I'm fairly good to go whenever I need to go.
All
And
right.
not like not in an inappropriate manner, not to like flash anything to anybody, but it's just more so if man, I really need to go. Hey, there's a bush. I'm there.
Okay. Well, yeah,
You've never?
no, I have, but it's not something I would be excited to do again because yeah, I don't
I
like
kind of
it.
like it. The
Especially
seat's a little
when the
warm.
fasten seatbelt sign comes on while you're pooping in the plane, and then the
Oh
plane
yeah,
starts to like you move, and you're like
yeah.
sitting there like holding on, and you're like you haven't finished wiping, so you can't exactly go back to your seat. Ah,
I will say that toilet seat, for those interested who have never enjoyed the pleasure that is the toilet seat on the airplane, it's very, very volatile in heat. So either it's like warm and soothing, like a sauna around the cheeks that cusp one's lower extremities, or it's excessively cold because of all that gust of cold air that
mm.
seeps through. And there's like really no middle ground I've ever found of just where it's like, oh, it's a normal seat like you can normally find in anybody's house and home. No, 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 no. This is either a very soothing and warm, like almost sickly warm, to where you're like, oh wow, okay,
Oh,
okay, we're
gross.
yeah, yeah,
I
well, yeah,
hate sitting on
almost,
a warm.
almost,
I hate sitting on a
yeah.
warm toilet seat, unless
All right,
unless I made it warm.
well, yeah, you
Yeah,
do make it warm. My last little quick tidbit here, and then we will end our rather elongated, short little segment here episode.
yeah, I know.
What is your preferred Jesus Christ! What is your preferred drink and snack combo? Whenever the
Mm.
airline attendant comes down the line and says snack, drink, what do you get?
It really depends on what they have.
Let's assume
If
let's assume
it's
the standard pretzels, peanuts, and I think that's about it. That's
I'm I mean, I'm not a pretzel man. Like sometimes they have potato chips, in which case I would go with
yeah.
the potato chips. But I have three options or four options really when it comes to drink. Generally, if it's peanuts or pretzels, I'm going with peanuts. I'm not a pretzel guy. And with the drink, it really depends on my mood. If I've been in a lounge drinking wine, if anything, I'm just going to drink more wine. But sometimes I'll have a beer. And if I'm not in the mood for alcohol, or if they're charging for alcohol, which is stupid, I will I will order maybe a Coke if I'm feeling like, okay, I try not to drink Coke too much, but sometimes. But otherwise, it'll be a ginger ale. I really like ginger ale, and especially when I'm flying, for whatever reason, ginger ale is my bang.
we could not be more opposite on this. I love pretzels. Would only if I'm starving take the peanuts, or or if I'm just even peckish, because like I said earlier, I am snacky. So, but I would prefer heavily the pretzels. And then for the drink, come on, man, you got to go with the OJ. The OJ is the unsung hero there. I love to get some airplane
Yeah,
OJ
but you,
like that.
have
To me,
you have admitted on the podcast that you can't drink carbonated things or alcohol. So that's, I mean,
yeah,
maybe if you could, you might be going with a beer or a Coke or a
or a
ginger ale
mimosa, maybe. Yeah,
or a mimosa. Oh,
yeah.
that was one of the best things about flying Emirates first class, or not first class. I didn't fly first class. I flew business class, which is still amazing. And
An
it's
improvement.
a long flight, and I was on the upper deck of a Airbus A380, which is the big, huge one with the upper deck all the way across the plane. If you don't know what that is, and that was, you have this big old little like cubicle to yourself with a seat that goes down all the way. And this was
Whoa.
many like 8, 9, 10 years ago or something. And my dad had upgraded the whole family with his miles, because he had lots of miles that he'd gotten from business travel. Anyway, and it was 10 a.m. and they come by and they're like, "Excuse me, Mr. Hoffman, would you like some champagne?" And I was like, "Mr. Hoffman, ooh."
I could get used to this.
A plane with like several hundred people on it, and well, obviously they only know the names of the business class people, but still,
Right,
like I was
right.
like, "Oh, it's 10 a.m., but damn it, yes, please, I'll have some champagne." Ah, what a time!
Yeah,
God, I've
trying to
got
think
so
of how
many
to word it.
traveling stories. That isn't even all
Yes.
of them. There's once that I was on a plane for 18 hours. I'll tell that story another time, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only thing to kind of wrap this up was, even when I was younger and I could have soda, I still didn't prefer soda. There's something to me about
Mm.
tradition with orange juice for some reason on an airplane. That is a natural marriage in my head. I've made that a tradition for myself. So perhaps I'm a little biased when it comes to that, but the pretzels is just pure preference. There's nothing there. Like, I think recently they've upgraded the options from pretzels and peanuts specifically to like cookies now. I think there's like little biscotti cookies that you can have, and so those are nice little additions. But orange juice, always, always, always orange juice. Well, that's all we really have time for. Go get yourself, Hoffman, on a beach, tan those
Oh
cheeks when
yeah.
in Europe, fully utilize the nude beach, and take a damn nap.
I most certainly will. Yes, of course. Before we head out, we've got a reduced number of thank yous to dish out here. We're going to thank Cass and Crossline for our intro and outro music, of course, because you've obviously heard that.
And we're also going to thank Tara Amstutz for her wonderful graphical design work, as you will probably notice as you were rewinding to rehear what we said time and time again on the podcast interface.
Yes. Find us on Instagram at powwow_podcast and Twitter, of course. And we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google. We're even on iHeartRadio, but just not stinking Pandora, because screw you, Pandora. Tune in next week. We will be back with a full-size episode, and I'm off to tan these cheeks, as Phil has so kindly recommended to me.
Hey, David, can you pass the suntan lotion? Why, yes, I can. Oh my gosh, what's that on the beach? Why, it's a bear! Rawr.